Hello, it's Mr. Gibbs here. This is the video version of the first class of BSS. I'm going to go through the file exercise 1 introduction. Now this particular file is open already in Excel, so you'll need to load it from the Y drive. What's it about? Well, over here in columns A and B you will see two columns of information, person and widgets, and we have here a list of people and how many widgets or things that they sold. Now this particular file is the tutor version of this file. It has the answers in here, so you can check these as you go along. Yours will be blank here, so you will need to type in for each of these questions a formula which gives you the same answer as you see on the screen. So let's have a quick look at this data here. So what have we got? We have in column A some names and some widgets down here, the things, how many of these widgets or things they've sold. And over here we have some questions. So let's go to the first question. How many entries are there in the second column of the data shown? Well, if you were doing this without Excel, you would just count the numbers. You'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, keep going until you get to the bottom, which just happens to be this row here, which is row 104. So 104 is the last row, and the first row is row 5. You can see that here. So with some simple maths you should be able to work out there's 100 rows there, more or less, if this is the 0 row, okay, or the first row. So how do we work that out? Well, we counted, if we were doing it without Excel, and if I go to cell E5 where I enter my question, here you can see we have a formula in there with a function equals count. I open the brackets, and in here I have to put my range of the cells I want to count. So I start in cell B5, I put a colon, which is the range operator, and then my final cell, which is B104. So it then counts all of the values between these two cell ranges. If I press enter, you'll notice that the cell selector jumps down to row 6, which is below it. Sometimes you might not want that, so if you're editing a formula here, you might want to just stay in the cell afterwards. And to do that without jumping down, you press Control and Enter. Or on a German keyboard, that's Stroke or STRG, which is on the bottom row near the space bar. So if I press Control Enter, I stay in the cell. Let's go to the second one, which is the highest value in the second column. Well, lucky for us, we can see the answer there. So we need to go down here and work out what's the highest one. So to do that, we use the formula max. How am I editing the cell there? Well, I'm pressing F2 on my keyboard, and I can see that I have the answer in there. And just like before, I use my function name equals, then the word max, then my range inside brackets, so B5 to B104. Okay, let's move on to the third one, which is the lowest value in the second column. In here I have a formula already, but with this one, instead of max we have min. It's exactly the same as before, so you type this in, equals min B5 to B104, and the answer should be 3. Then we come to question 4. What's the range of values in the second column? Well, the range of values is always the difference between the highest and the lowest. So as I already have those on my sheet, I could type in here equals E7 minus E9, which is the highest value, minus the lowest value. That gives me the answer, which is absolutely fine. If I didn't have those numbers there, I would have to type them out again. So I'd say max B5 to B104 minus min B5 to B104. And surprise, surprise, I get the answer 984. Let's move on to question 5. What is the mean of the widget values shown? Well, the mean is another word for the average. And surprise, surprise, in Excel we have a function called average equals average, and then the same range as before, B5 to B104. So if you type that in, you'll get the answer, 576.36. Then we come to question 6, which is what is the most occurring number in the list of widget values shown? So what's the number that appears the most in this list? Well, the function to do that is mode, which is a descriptive statistical term. You'll see that word used alongside mean and median in your statistics class. And the mode is the most frequent or most popular or most occurring number in the list. So the answer to this question is 343. And that's the answer to question 6. So we've done the mean, which is the average. We've done the mode, which is the most occurring. And now we come to the middle value. So if I were to line all these numbers up in order, what would be the middle value? Well, to do that, I use the function median. And it's the same range as before, B5 to B104, from top to bottom. So the answer to question 7 is equals median, open brackets, B5 colon B104. Let's move on to question 8. How many entries, that is to say names, are there in the person column? Well, you'd think all of these would have a name in them. But there's a little problem here in this column A, because not every cell here has a name in it. If you follow what I do, you'll find that out. So let's click in cell A5 together. And if you press stroke or control and then the down arrow key, you jump to cell A80, and it stops there because the cell below it, 81, is blank. So there's no name in cell A81. If we keep going down here, you'll notice that the rest of them do have a name in there. So if I were to scroll out here, so zoom out rather, I can see that my cell A81 is blank. So it isn't the case that every row has a name in it. Let's jump back to the top. So how do I jump back to the top? Well, I can scroll up over here if I want to with my mouse, or I can press my shortcut to jump to the top of the sheet, which is Control Home, or on German keyboard, Stroke and Pause 1. That takes you to the top of a sheet. So if I press those two keys now, Control and Home, or Stroke Pause 1, I jump back to the top of the sheet. And I'll zoom back in again. So the question is, how many entries are there in the person column? Well, the answer to this is 99, because I know there's one missing. There's 100 numbers, as you can see here in cell E5, but actually with the blank cell there's only 99 names. So let's go back here to cell E19, and if we edit the cell there, the function to count text is count A rather than count. Now count counts numbers, and count A counts non-blank cells. So this is the most common function that we use to count text in cells. Now the range here is slightly different. This time it's A5 to A104, and because it's a different column, it's column A rather than column B. Good. Let's move to question 9. What's the second highest? Well, here we had the highest in question 2, which was max. How do you find the second highest? Well, the function for that is the word large. You'll see that there. It's the same range as before. And the 2 there means the second highest. If I were to change that to 1, surprise, surprise, it gives me the same as max, which is 987. You'll see there that E7 is now the same as E21. But of course I want number 2 because I want the second highest value. Likewise here in question 10, what's the third lowest? Well, what's the opposite of large? Well, it's small. B5 to B104, and now the third lowest value is a 3, which gives me the answer 108. So that's the first 10 done. I'll be back in the next video to continue with question 11.